If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Heaven, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined by my friend Craig the Sawman Sawyer. It's been almost a year since we had him on last. Craig, we've got a lot of new viewers. I'd appreciate it if you could introduce yourself to our audience so that I don't do you any injustices.
Yeah, man. Well, I think the most important parts are that I served in the Marine Corps, the Navy SEAL teams, and then federal law enforcement for 5 years. And then I did 10 years of high threat mobile security over in the war zones for the Department of State and our intelligence community. And then I founded, after doing quite a bit of film and television work in the firearms related TV shows, I started doing counter poaching work in Africa. And then I founded Veterans for Child Rescue once I learned about child trafficking. And I founded V4CR specifically to, number one, expose, and number two, combat child trafficking in the United States. Because I learned that child trafficking was a covert operation run domestically here at industrial scale. And so my weapon against it is, in the intelligence community, in the covert world, we call it mission compromise, meaning it gets exposed and you lose your secrecy. And that's what I mean to happen to the child traffickers, those who are abusing the children here. I want to rip away their convenient top cover of security and secrecy so that we, the people, can see what's going on, what they're doing to the children at an industrial scale, and turn against it and revolt against it to rescue all of the children from this ridiculous abuse that's happening here. And anyway, that's who I am. That's what I do. And those are the broad strokes that I think really matter, Chris.
Yeah, no, we're going to share links with our audience as well. You've got an incredible biography, and I appreciate you bringing everybody up to date like that. When did this hit you that you needed to do something on the child sex trafficking? What year was it?
I think it was 2014. And I just gotten back from Africa doing rhino wars, and I built I think it was an $80 million capability to eradicate poaching in South Africa. And people wouldn't fund it because they didn't trust the African governments. There's too much corruption over there. And
right.
We've done that Rhino Wars series for Animal Planet over there to combat that. So we were smoking cigars with several of my friends from different agencies. One guy from the CIA that had grown up in the area right there where I'd grown up, just north of Houston, Texas, was saying, "Hey, Craig, this area has grown to become the hottest epicenter in the continental United States of child sex trafficking." And so he started explaining to me a little bit of what that looks like around Houston. And I was disgusted. I was upset about it. And the more he started describing it, the more I realized this is a covert operation here. It's a domestic operation. You don't run anything at that scale without government top cover. Because if you and I tried to sell lemonade at that scale, the government would crush us. Absolutely crush us. We tried to sell cigars or footballs or anything at that scale, the federal government would absolutely destroy us, man. And so, but no, not child trafficking, because there's too many people that are in on it. And that's what I started learning. We started researching, and I realized I wanted to ruin their top cover. I wanted to ruin their secrecy. I wanted to start flipping tables over and shining the light on the filth so that we, the people, could start revolting against it and say, no, we're not going to tolerate this. This is pure evil. This is wickedness. This has no place in our nation. And I don't think it has any place on this planet. But, that's a spiritual answer anyway. That's, that's the clash between the two kingdoms, the kingdom of heaven and the fallen. And that's what we're witnessing. We're witnessing physical ramifications, physical manifestations of that conflict between the larger forces of good and evil. That's literally what we're seeing. And it's the weak men who just lust after wealth and power, who want to be in secret societies or networks where they can get the job, the position for the prestige and power and money that they want. And it turns out that the secret societies that JFK warned us about before they assassinated him in public, same people, same networks, is that they are all they're involved in doing unspeakable things to children in order to be a part of those secret societies and those networks. And that's why they're so quiet about it, so secret about it, because what they're up to is utterly disgusting and revolting. Look, if you got to take a diaper off of a baby to rape them, there's something very dysfunctional and broken in you. And even in prisons, prisoners will murder. They will kill a pedophile outright because even they see the devil in a child rapist. So that's what these secret societies are about. There's a lot of big organizations that are infiltrated at the very top by it, that culture now. Major religions at the very top. I would say 90% of the people are unwitting on their bottom ranks until you get to the very top, and then these institutions are inverted, and there's a ceremonial reading in initiation. Hey, here's how it is at the top, and you got to do this to a child because it's actually we're Luciferian, and Lucifer is somehow awesome and good, and that's who we worship, and that's who gives us our hookers and blow, or our riches and our a power that we abuse. And by the way, for our security, you got to do this horrible stuff to a child on video just for our security, so you don't talk, just for safety. No one will ever see it, but we're just going to archive that. And then come to find out, they get in a little bit deeper, and it's kind of really all about doing those defilements to children, because that's what gives them their power from the dysfunctional, wicked, spiritual dark side. So that's what we've been finding out as we dig through further and further and interview hundreds of survivors of satanic ritual abuse. But really, I just want people to stop raping children. We're running sting operations with federal and local law enforcement to catch people that come to try to harm children. And in doing that, and interviewing the people that we catch, and interviewing the survivors of this, who sometimes decades afterward can really, really articulate to you what it's really like, we're starting to learn all of the dark reasons why this is so pervasive, Chris.
There's a comment I put up on screen here. This gentleman knows you. He said you wouldn't recognize his name, Velcro, but I work with him fairly frequently. He was in the Marines as well. And I can't remember. He told me what the name was that you'd recognize him by, and I don't recall what it is. I apologize. My sometimers is kicking in there. I don't have Alzheimer's. I got sometimers. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget. But I want to ask you about 2014, because I was pretty late to the game on this stuff. 3 years ago, I was sitting in an office, and 3 cops walked in. I didn't recognize their badges on their belts. They weren't in uniform. They were plain clothes. And I said, "Can I help you with something?" They said, "Yeah, we're from the Amtrak police." And I was like, "Pardon?" And they said, "We know, nobody's heard of us. There's only 40 of us across the entire country." And beside our office, there was a small strip plaza, and we had a small firearms store there. And there was a CPA/bookkeeping business beside us. And they said, "Could we get access to your retail store to run some surveillance on your neighbor? We think he's involved in some pretty bad stuff." And the owner wasn't there, but I was the only executive there. I said, "Sure, no problem." And they said, "Is there any chance we could borrow one of your box fans too?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem. We'll bring it over there." 2 days later, Craig, they come back in, and that CPA was caught with over 120 children in his possession. And not too far from that, do you remember the old motels that we had everywhere in Florida back in the day, the 50s and 60s? I mean, they're pretty iconic for here. There was this old motel that his office backed onto, and he was trafficking the kids out of that hotel. And my jaw just about hit the ground. That was kind of the first, I guess, big stick that hit me. But when I mentioned it to people, they were like, "Isn't that crazy?" And Victor Avila turns around and says to me, "This is happening every single day. Wasn't trying to be rude, but he said, not to downplay your story, but this is happening every day."
Yeah. He's telling the truth.
I was gobsmacked by it. So what did it look like though in 2014 when it hits your radar and you started talking to other people about it, did they have any disbelief, or did they
Well,
embrace you?
yeah, first of all, my friends in Hollywood, uh, you know, producers and, executives are like, oh, yeah, yeah, let's do that. So, man, we'll help you. God's work, God's work. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 3 years went by. And I was like, none of these people are going to help me. They're lying to me. They're shining me on. They're in an industry that's utterly rancid and saturated with this filth, and none of them dare lift a finger to help me. So I realized I was going to have to do it all by myself. So I started trying to do a crowdfunding campaign to just crowdfund a documentary. And that's when we started seeing some really bizarre stuff from big tech. All the crowdfunding platforms were doing some really bizarre antics to stop us from rallying funds. And so there was a hashtag PedoPal campaign where we had to really hit PayPal pretty hard because they tried to seize like 40,000 of our donations for no reason. And they just weren't going to give us a reason. They just said, we're just going to sit on this for 180 days. And I'm like, that's not satisfactory. So I went on Twitter at the time. I had 130,000 followers, which has been, deleted and gone for years now. But people started listening and they started virally sharing it. It went viral. Hashtag PedoPal went completely viral. And in 48 hours, PayPal, who had never talked to me, never, they'd cut me off on all the different phone calls and emails and everything. They sent me a message saying, oh, your funds are free to go at this time. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. So anyway, after that, people were saying, Craig, you're going to have to found a nonprofit organization just to rally the money to make the documentary. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want a nonprofit org. There's such a target for haters and losers and just bitter people who like that, right? It's just a magnet for people's vitriol. I want that like I want a hole in the head.
Right.
And they're like, well, you're going to have it because, that's the only way it looks like you're going to be able to rally the money to do this. So I did. And we rallied the money and we filmed Contraland. And I urge everyone to type in the words contralandmovie.com. Go there and watch it. It's a high quality documentary. It aired to 90 million households in the US and Canada on Daystar Television Network. God bless them when everybody else wanted this thing killed. They wanted it silenced because we show you what's really going on out there, how many people will really come for a child in any town, USA, if they know that there's a child available or vulnerable there. It'll turn your stomach, but you need to know what's going on out there, what it looks like, what's happening. And Contraland, is hard for people to watch, but that's a very mild first overview of what we learned when we first got started. That doesn't even cover the satanic ritual abuse. I mean, we just covered pedophiles who came to abuse children in our sting operations. And we talked to survivors and experts and all that kind of stuff. So you see our operations, see us arrest quite a few pedophiles and predators on there. You see what happened to our daughter. You'll hear her story. That's very compelling. She's a powerhouse. God is raising that girl up to be, she is our fiercest predator hunter now.
Amazing.
And, you see me high five and hug her. I think at one point when we were putting a predator in a squad car, I gave her a hug and, I think she called me her hero or something. And I said, you're starting to become mine. And she's just kept going. And she's getting good at this. And I'm just so grateful because a lot of people, when I do public speaking or we go work with other law enforcement, they say, Craig, our daughter or son really got a lot of inspiration watching your daughter operate and have these guys arrested. I'm like, well, I'm just grateful that people are able to watch her go and gain that inspiration to find their voice and be encouraged by her fight. Because, man, she will not stop and she's not afraid. So I'm grateful to be able to plug her in, allow her to do her thing and watch her grow and thrive and watch others inspired from it. So that's one aspect of what we're doing. But look, God is good, man. He wants these children spared. and he loves the children. He loves the precious children. And I think what American people need to know is the fallen and the wicked, these weak men, they abuse children because they're innocent. They abuse the children because they are precious and defenseless. And that's what makes it so wicked and evil, is because that child is not deserving of any harm. Yet the intentional harm and the cruelty and destruction and trauma of that little child's mind is so brutal. And it's a life sentence for that person unless there is miraculous healing involved. And like I said, we interview them all the time. And that's the hardest part of my job. I don't care about the scumbags, the predators. I'm not afraid of them. I love putting them in prison to stop what they're doing. The hardest part for me is listening to the good people who can tell you in their adulthood, after a lot of therapy and a lot of education and decades of healing, they can articulate to you in all honesty exactly what it did to them. And that's what tears my heart out. And I'm a hardened combat veteran, a DevGru operator, fighter, warrior. But man, if you care about people, if you have any compassion and you can empathize to any degree, when you hear people describe in detail, just a matter of fact of what was done to them in their childhood, and you've interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of other people that have experienced some of the same things, because some of these abuses are standardized across the globe, you realize, man, this is happening on industrial scale, and it shakes you to the core, and it makes you want to stand up for them because so few are. And I'm sick and tired of administrations giving it lip service and going, yeah, we're against child trafficking, but they only make mild efforts against it. And then we try to get law enforcement to operate, and they don't care, a lot of them, or they're not supported to do it. Or worse, you've got a certain globalist billionaire who funds district attorneys with the agreement, he funds their campaigns to get them in those elected seats with the agreement that they will not prosecute entire categories of harmful crimes, especially child trafficking. That's a gross violation of public trust and conflict of interest. Should be highly illegal. I think it is. It's just we don't enforce that law. So we've got in all our major cities DAs who will not prosecute child rape and child trafficking crimes because that globalist billionaires have been allowed to make that agreement with them. That has to go. We have to replace those DAs. We have to. We have to, Chris.
I want to make clear to our audience, just because you said a lot of stuff there, I'm just backing up a little bit, that you had a very robust following across multiple platforms, and for no good reason whatsoever other than to silence you. You were one of the, call it the first people out there who really got canceled on a widespread basis. I just want to make sure our audience understood that, number one. Number two, you made a comment of people taking shots at you, when you form a 501c3 or C4.
Yeah.
I had lunch with Lou Holtz on the rooftop restaurant at the Manchester Grand Hyatt in San Diego in 2003. Walked away absolutely shell-shocked that he dumped so much insight on us. But he said one thing I'll never forget, Craig. He said there's two types of people in this world. There's those people who elevate themselves by elevating everybody around them, and those people who elevate themselves by putting other people down. And what you're describing obviously falls into that second category. And the way he ended that is he said the good news is you have a choice which bucket you want to be in, which he was a pretty interesting individual. Just another small anecdote here. So my brother-in-law was Navy Intel. He ran the desk for Bayron for 12 years, but also a 30-year sheriff as well. And he functioned in multiple capacities, including CSI stuff. And there was one particular case over here in Oviedo on the east side of Orlando where some sicko murdered a grandmother who was watching two of her granddaughters, but he raped all three of them. And then he murdered the grandmother and the one girl, and he thought that he'd murdered the third one, but somehow she managed to survive. And it's the one and only thing in Bob's career that he won't say a word about, other than if anybody asks him about it, because it was high profile here in Central Florida, he'll just say, I had to spend 24 hours with that little girl. And collecting evidence, and that's all I have to say. It's unimaginable stuff. So the reason I mention that is, in addition to you being canceled, there's massive amounts of censorship on all of this stuff in the name of community safety guidelines. You know, we don't want to shock people. You would know from law enforcement that there's certain things that you've seen that if you put it on YouTube or anywhere else, they wouldn't give you a strike. They just delete your channel, sort of thing.
Yeah, true.
And it makes it hard to educate people when you can't communicate just how vile these things are. And it's interesting because a friend of mine, Keith Graves, runs Christian Warrior Training. He was a Bay Area cop for 30 years. And when he retired, he moved to Idaho. He says he moved back to the U.S. He left to California and came to the U.S. But he was teaching agencies from local PDs all the way to the feds. And everywhere that he would put the evidence, because he specialized in drug and gang interdiction. So every time he would post any type of evidence to share in these workshops, it would get deleted just like that. He got kicked off a bunch of platforms, and he even got through to some people and said, I'm in law enforcement. I'm teaching other law enforcement, agents just exactly what's going on out there. And they're like, no, we have to protect our community. We can't put that out there. And that's a cop out.
Yeah. It's a cop. It's a lie. There's a lot of what we're finding out. And I found this out early on, Chris, and it was in, I'll just say it now. It was in Los Angeles. I talked to a senior law enforcement official there, and he said, well, the mayor doesn't want the stats to look, the crime stats to look high. So he's not going to run any, sting operations or any operations against child predators or child traffickers. So I'm like, oh, so your mayor is okay with letting the wicked slaughter the children for his own comfy crime stats to look better, not to make it better, but for it to appear better for his personal benefit. So we have that nationwide. It's that way, I would say, far more than it is not, Chris. So.
It's political theater is the only thing it's evil. It's downright evil.
Weak. It's weak. It's pathetic.
Very, very weak for sure. So the exact opposite of being weak. Let's talk strength. You've done an amazing job with Vets for Child Rescue. I got to give you kudos on this, Craig. Whoever did the latest makeover of your website did an absolutely phenomenal job. I come from high tech, from Sun Microsystems and Oracle. And when I noticed that your website had been overhauled, I got to tell you, kudos to whoever did it, and kudos to you. There is so much information. I want to make sure everybody understands this, that you can go to vets4childrescue.org to check out Craig's content. It is super high caliber, and there's a ton of it. But this board of advisors, and then you have a board of directors as well.
Let me stop you right there. If you'll scroll back real quick to the first gentleman, that's Jack Farmer. So that the real Jack Ryan that Tom Clancy wrote about, that's him right there. His real name's Jack Farmer.
No kidding.
Yeah, wow. He's a Marine. He's a national security bigwig. He's in all the think tanks and networks, and when presidents want major problems solved, he's always in the loop. So I've been blessed to get to know him. When I founded Vets for Child Rescue, and we've become good friends, and I still can't believe I'm friends with that man and his wife. What quality people, man! Love him, and just honored to have people like that on our board. Dr. Judith Reisman, she exposed. She has passed away. She's on there to honor her forever now, and she exposed Alfred Kinsey and dogged him. And Alfred Kinsey was a fake scientist. He was just a very sick predator, child predator. And the CIA funded him to try to make child rape sound somehow normal and good. And Dr. Judith Reisman was a true champion of children. And man, I loved that woman. She was so precious to me. So we're going to leave her on there to honor her and all of her work, because for 50 years, she dogged Alfred Kinsey and showed people what a fraud and scumbag he was. And sadly, today, the Kinsey Institute is still the recipient of multi-million-dollar grants and donations. And he's still celebrated as the father of the sexual revolution. He was an absolute fraud and monster. His own genitals were mutilated according to what he preferred sexually. Total, total scumbag. And yet his institution remains. And so God bless her. So those are the type of people we have on there. I think
It's phenomenal. I mean, I read through this entire page and just thought to myself, you have assembled the A team here.
well, it's a blessing. Look, I don't deserve these people. They're just quality people. Admiral Moore, I mean, I could go on all day about the theaters of operation that he's run and what all he's been responsible for and his service, but fantastic human being. We got Bob Hamer in there. Bob Hamer in the FBI went undercover into NAMBLA, the North American Man Boy Love Association,
No
and
kidding.
pedophile network. And they got a strong lobbyist. They're very highly funded because those perverts are rich, and because we're in Earth is in a fallen state. It's run by the fallen, and that's why these people do this stuff to children, is to benefit from that status of those secret networks. And Bob Hamer got 8 convictions on the senior child rapist at NAMBLA, and he's a hero of mine. And it was not easy for him to do because he was a straight heterosexual Christian Marine in the Bureau who had done a bunch of counter narcotics and weapons undercover operations, and he was good at the undercover thing. And the Bureau asked him to go inside of NAMBLA, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that." And they're like, "No, we're not asking, Bob. We need you to get in there and become convincingly one of them, so that we can catch them." And so Bob had to walk and talk like them and convince them he thought like they did for a couple of years. He wrote for their magazine. I mean, so I pray for Bob for all that filth to be washed out of his memory, because he's a good man. And again, he's one of my heroes. So
That was actually going to be my next question, Craig. How does somebody come to grips with that type of exposure, that element of evil? I mean, I know a lot of law enforcement people who've seen horrendous things, and every last one of them has PTSD. Every last one of them has flirted with committing suicide. And I can't imagine it because I've never been exposed to it. It's disgusting,
yeah.
but I don't know the full brunt of it. I mean, how do people cope that you've seen?
Well, I tell you what, man, and I don't want this to sound like an untouchable, super religious response or a canned response. The genuine answer is our Creator. Not enough people in the United States anymore realize that we can have a personal relationship with our Creator. We're meant to. And there's so much programming to keep us from being aware of that. In fact, that's what really the whole war on this planet's about, is awareness of who we are and where our salvation, where our power is, where our healing is, where our rescue comes from. If we know that, we're impossible to enslave. So the ones that want complete power over planet Earth are systematically programming us out of that awareness. So the real solution is get alone, get quiet, pray to the Creator, and learn to hear back from Him. There is tremendous healing, complete healing there, because He's the great healer. He spoke everything into existence. There's nothing He can't heal. And He teaches us too. And in His Word, there's like so much wisdom in there that when you process it and grow closer to Him, there's a natural healing in that anyway, because there's such deep love in it. So that's what I've seen, Chris. So many people that have gone through horrific experiences, the ones that are the most healed are the ones that know Him. And that seems to be the only source of genuine healing that I've witnessed anywhere.
Incredible comment on your part, Craig. So my brother-in-law is also our pastor, and our church has been around for 150 years. It started with about 30 people. It's got about 40 people now. It's in the middle of BFE, Florida. You can look it up, Pearson, Florida, Pierson, Baptist Church, Pearson. And I'd never really connected the two, like you just stated there, as far as being therapeutic for Bob. He's a phenomenal man. He's just an incredible all the way around. He's an incredible pastor, incredible law enforcement officer, everything. So you just connected some dots for me. So
Right
let's
on.
assume, Craig, let's assume that our audience is not deeply educated. Many of them are, but isn't deeply educated on the topic of child trafficking. Describe what child trafficking and child grooming is for their benefit.
Yeah, well, trafficking is selling a child or lending a child out to be harmed for something of value in exchange. So it could be MS-13 gangbangers selling children out of a clapped out motel room for cash. It could be Mexican drug cartels smuggling them around the country for bigger money. It could be moms, dads lending their children out to be raped and harmed for drugs that they can't afford, or lodging or any other good or service of value. It could be the federal government, Health and Human Services, paying companies like MVM, who contract to the CIA, to covertly smuggle unaccompanied minors to predators inside the United States, as has been discussed at length in live congressional session on the air on the news. So why do we have Health and Human Services trafficking children to child rapists and child murderers? Well, because we, the people, haven't said stop yet. We haven't said no.
I'd
And
like to
until
get
we
your
do, they're going to continue because there's billions of dollars being made. There's Catholic charities that are utterly corrupt that are making fat money, taking children from across the border and bringing them in and giving them to people who harm them instead of giving them to their biological parents or legitimate caretakers. So there's a lot of ways that this has happened. There's people that are trafficked children to organ harvesters that want to take them and cut out their guts and use them for organ donations. And it's vile. It's not, humanity is not supposed to be this way. This is not natural. This is supernatural. This is from the fallen. This is what's being done to children, Chris, is an example of Satan's war on mankind. He wants to make war on the children because they're his prime target, because that's, in my personal understanding, the most painful to the Creator. His purest, his most precious, his most innocent are the little children. And Satan's making war on them to break the Father's heart and give him an up yours before Satan's clock runs out, because time's short and he knows it. And it's
Another interesting comment on your part, Craig, because my wife, for as long as I've known her, she will say something in private, but somebody will say, how could God let this or that happen? And my wife will say, did you ever consider that it's Satan? It's not God letting it happen. And these are attacks by the devil. And, this is an age old battle for, eternity, basically. And most people don't, I don't know, for whatever reason, they don't jump straight to it's Satan doing these things. They just can't get their head wrapped around how God could let it unfold. But a couple quick things. Victor Avila and J.J. Carroll told me, and I believe them 100%, that Trenda Aragua, who's very opportunistic, prefer child sex trafficking over drugs because of the recurring revenue. And at a bare minimum, they make around $250,000 per year off each child. And in some instances, it's 2 and 3 times that much money. So your comments on the money, it's absolutely astronomical. But my question for you is, Craig, so the government came out and said, under Mayorkas, they lost track of 325,000 minors. And we've heard all the horror stories of how people under DHS would send children to the same address, knowingly send them, dozens of them,
Yep.
and be told by a supervisor, don't just keep sending them there, because the people who are taking those kids don't ever file, anything with us further. So it's less work for us. So just keep sending them to this address. So I want to say JJ was the first one. When they were saying 85,000, JJ was saying to me, no, it's at least 500,000. Of course, he was a CBP special agent for years, 23 years. And he was going off of what his people were telling him. And then we had Doc Pete on, who's a good friend of ours, Lieutenant Colonel Doc Pete Chambers from Remnant Ministries. And at that point in time, they had copped to 325,000. And there were a handful of people in the government saying it was close to 500,000. And Doc Pete said to us straight up, he said, it's twice that. It's 1 million children have been lost under the installed Biden administration. So my question to you is, and don't expect to have a crystal ball or anything like that, but what is you're in this knee deep every day. What is your feeling on how many souls were lost as a result of Mayorkas?
Well, I look at, first of all, those three guys, I consider them all friends. I know JJ less than I do the others, but we are allies and friends. So Doc Pete and I are the closest of those three, but fantastic guys. I believe they're all giving you straight scoop there. Man, Mayorkas, if you look into his past, he's a child trafficker. I mean, he's neck deep in it. That's his business. He's a complete reprobate, and I think he's a psychopath. So where do these people come from? People say, well, why does God allow this? Well, we're looking at psychopathic behavior, people who have no compassion. There's only self promotion and greed and lust, and they come from child abuse. It's not natural to be a psychopath. You don't have a child from a loving mother and father who hasn't been traumatized, who just magically becomes a psychopath. They come from years of neglect or more likely severe trauma and cruelty and abuse. So that's the reason why so many of the wicked traumatize their own children, because they're breeding an army of psychopaths. They think they're going to overthrow the whole world, and even in their minds, the universe. They think they're going to win some big spiritual conflict. It's very, very deranged and dysfunctional, but in their minds, that's what they have mapped out. And this is what is going on with a lot of the people, the scientists that the federal government, U.S. federal government, brought out over to the United States in Operation Paperclip after World War II. The Nazi scientists, the rocket scientists, Werner von Braun, and all those guys became some of the founding members of NASA, and actually did a lot of good work at NASA. But then the other psychologists were brought into CIA and other agencies, and for their mind control. The Monarch and MK Ultra and other mind control programs are trauma based, meaning they torture these people into breaking their minds and splitting them. And it's easier for them to do it to children, so they do this to their own children and to each other's children, and it's quiet. And so they're breeding this whole army of psychopaths who have no compassion for others, because they're in their childhood, they're made to defend themselves and focus on themselves and tune everyone else out. And through repetition of trying to be okay, through the horror, they become distorted in a very dark and bitter place. And you've created a monster who will then do that to others. It's heartbreaking, and it is evil. And we have to recognize that that's happened now, and there are many millions inside the United States that are this way. And, they're like, if you look at a lawyer, lawyers don't really care about right and wrong. It's just the letter of the law. Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of them, they become lawyers and things like that because it suits them. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're good lawyers, but that's something that's really permeated our society. We've got an army of psychopaths out there. A lot of them are politicians. You look at someone like Mayorkas, I guarantee you go back into his childhood, you're going to have severe childhood trauma. Comey, Strzok, McCabe, all these corrupt officials that will betray everyone they ever loved. Guess what? They never loved anyone. So they don't feel like they're betraying us. They're just getting away with whatever they can because we don't enforce our laws against treason and betrayal. So they're going to continue taking and stomping and selling out our nation, selling our secrets to our enemies and betraying us because nobody's putting the handcuffs on them and throw them in a prison to put a stop to it. So I pray that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are putting together cases to arrest hundreds of FBI agents who are corrupt and hundreds more to fire who are not doing their job. And I hope even more are being arrested and fired from the CIA, who we've been watching betray us, and their directors caught red-handed in congressional session, yet there's no arrests been made. So now that we've got a new administration, new directors, the only thing I think that's going to help turn our country around is the purging, the systematic and thorough purging of our key agencies before those agencies can help us drain the rest of the swamp. If that doesn't happen, whatever Trump does in this administration is going to be window dressing. They'll play with the numbers in the economy. It'll be nice for a season. And then as soon as he's out, the wicked will come back with a rampage and destroy everything, because their system is saturated with utterly wicked, treasonous betrayer and quislings. So, I think there are a lot of good people in our key agencies, but our directors have to purge them. You can't just put a new director at the top and have it be okay. There has to be a systematic purging all the way down that chain of command of the corrupt. And it's not that they're not corrupt. We've been watching. We know that they are. We can measure that they are. So I pray that happens, because we're starved for justice. Our people are demoralized. We want to return to legitimacy, to honor, to integrity. We want a legitimate federal government. And, we don't want to be interfering with all the world's business and overthrowing regimes and botching it and causing a lot of harm and everything. We want the United States to be honorable, man. So anyway,
well,
I'll shut up about that. I've been going on too long.
No, not at all. It's fascinating, Craig. I mean, we're the largest Christian nation in the world. And ironically, Russia's the second largest Christian nation. And I think I know what the answer to this question is, but I'd still like to hear what you have to say. I personally think that people who cross certain lines are not reformable. And I would say that men who beat up women and rape them, men who rape children, I don't think that there's any coming back. I don't think that you can reform those people. But I want to hear your opinion, because this is your daily routine.
Yeah.
Are any of them fixable?
Well, look, the Creator can fix anyone like that. Literally anyone. Now, if you go into the hospitals, you go into the rehab facilities, the prisons, they'll tell you a pedophile cannot be rehabbed. They don't see them rehab. The reason I believe, and this is Craig's opinion, I can't prove this in the court of law. This is just based on what I'm learning right now. We're learning a lot. But from what I've seen, the reason a pedophile, you don't see them being reformed, is because it's demonic. It is literally demonic. And it's not their mind. They are infested with a spirit being that is driving them with that perversion, and they're not in control of themselves. If they are delivered of that spiritually, they can heal and go, oh my God, would have been a part of, and turn from that evil. But anything short of that cannot work, because they are still infested with that demonic parasite driving them to conduct that activity. And that leads me to another thing you said earlier. People are like, why could God let this happen? Folks, I would say, look at the purpose of this earth life. For we humans, we are spirit beings in temporary physical 3D bodies here as a learning and development experience, where we experience triumph, tragedy, and everything in between. And we're to exercise our free will to choose who we will be through it, how we will be through it. If you attack me, Chris, I get to choose how I respond to that. If you're nice to me, if I get victory over you, you get victory over me. I get to choose how I am through that. If I'm gracious, if I'm grateful, or if I'm bitter and selfish, right? Everything is a choice. So we're here as a character assessment development course. Our Creator's watching to see what we will choose given the different experiences. So these challenges that we're like, it's horrible. How could God allow that to happen? Well, men have chosen to do that with their own free will. And what we're to do is learn from it. Don't go that way. That's ugly. I choose the Father's way. I choose real love that is patient, love that is kind. love that holds no grudge, love that is not self-serving and holds no record of wrongs, all the qualities of real agape love. That's the love I choose. We can do that and become more like our Creator, and that's who He wants with Him in paradise for all eternity. And those who continually reject Him, they're going to go to the other place that's for the fallen. So it's not that God's bringing these things or allowing them. He allows us free will because He loves us and He lets us choose. There's no force in His kingdom. So sadly, weak men choose evil. They choose self and they stomp on everyone. And that's who you have, poisoning people and causing all kinds of global destruction and disease and all kinds of things. Child trafficking, because they're serving themselves, lust and greed, and they're destroying and stomping on everyone around them. That's not your Creator. That's man's free will in a fallen earth, in a fallen state, following their nose and doing what weak men do. And so we get to observe that and go, I rebuke that. I reject that. I will not behave that way, no matter what I experience. I will keep the faith. I will keep it a love state. I will stay in gratitude. I will give thanks in all things. I have the free will to choose that, and I'm grateful for it. And I cannot be anymore. So look, there's my blurb on that. It's not that God chooses, it's that man is weak until he decides better.
Yeah, it's a fascinating answer, Craig. I really appreciate the insight on that. It was really good. So I think I told you when we were offline that when I started Survival Dispatch News, I was noticing that there were a lot of comments on various podcasts of people saying, all I see is a bunch of talking heads. There's nothing I can do that'll make any difference. And I disagree with that. So we give our audience homework at the end of every episode, things that they can actually do to make a tangible difference in whatever the thing is that we're discussing. So kind of moving in that direction, this page that's up here right now, give us an overview from a situational awareness perspective. What do we all, need to see as red flags? What are the signs of child trafficking, grooming, and all this evil?
Yeah, well, one big one is in our own schools, man. If you have drag queen story hour, if you've got hairy, sweaty men and G-strings grinding on elementary school children, you have a severe perversion that needs to be addressed. And that's why we've got a former FBI director that called concerned moms at school board meetings domestic terrorists. You know why? Because the wicked are terrorized by the righteous. A wicked FBI director who may or may not have been on board with, pedophilia, saw a loving mother at a school board meeting who had the moral courage to stand up and ask hard questions, a domestic terrorist. So there's one thing. We need to unpoison our schools. What's the word I'm looking for there? We need to revamp our schools and eject and reject this dysfunction that's been forced into our schools by activists who are not well. And we need to restore our schools as learning institutions and not propaganda and programming institutions where they're indoctrinated into a godless global Marxist dystopian nightmare. So there's that. So if we train our youth, train our nation, our culture to be protective of children rather than predatory, then most of this would go away. So in public, let's say you see someone with a child at airport, bus station. Does the child look like it's with its biological parents, or do they not look like they fit? Well, I'm not saying go tackle them, because maybe it's an adoption, or maybe they just don't look like their parents, and it's legit. That can happen all the time. But you can ask kind questions and intervene. And you start taking pictures and video and ask the child if they're okay. A lot of children that are being trafficked, they'll have very nice items like multiple cell phones, and sometimes they'll have quite a bit of cash because they need it. They'll have high-end shoes and things where they may not be that clean. There's a lot of things to kind of look for, but it's when and where. It's a totality of circumstances, really. So let's say it's Super Bowl and they're being brought into an Airbnb house in the middle of the night, several van loads of kids coming in and out of a rental home, or hotels, motels around a major event like Bike Week or Formula One racing or Super Bowl or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you have tens of thousands of men converging on a city for any sort of entertainment or conference, a percentage of them are going to want entertainment after hours. A percentage of that's going to be hookers and blow, and a percentage of that's going to be children. And so look for that, and look for children who have signs of distress, who are not happy, who don't look like they're willing to go along. They're being forced to go with whoever's escorting them. If the parent will not let, or the adults will not let the child speak for themselves, you ask a child, hey, is this your toy? Is it? Oh, and the adult answers for them and won't let the child talk. That can be an indicator that somebody's trafficking that child and doesn't want the child to speak for themselves, and overly controlling. It's just an arm-long list of things like that. And we've got a lot of them on our website there, v4cr.org. Go there, educate yourself, share it with other people you care about, educate them, empower them. Because look, if you love people, you want them empowered, right? And knowledge is power. So we share as much as we can on our website.
Your website's phenomenal. I just shared this link actually earlier when I was going through the vernacular here. I could barely identify any of them. They were not the vernacular that I use or anybody in my circle uses. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, because now that I've read through it, there's a psychological term and I can't remember what it is, but I can describe it to you. Years ago, I bought a red Jeep from a friend of mine, and when I was driving it home, I saw a gazillion red Jeeps, and I made a comment to somebody, and they said, well, yeah, that's the psychological condition that, you buy something or something happens, and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere. Before that, if you asked me how many red Jeeps I saw on the road, I'd say, oh, none, sort of thing. But the language thing's really interesting. Walk us through the next piece of this, Craig, as far as helping your own children to avoid being abused or snatched by a trafficking organization.
Yeah, well, I think with that, we, the parents, need to get into the child's devices and understand who they're talking to, which apps are dangerous. Some of these apps have covert capabilities. They can be videoing your child without your child knowing it. Your child may think he's playing a game or chatting with another child, when it could be a full-grown predatory adult on the other side, mimicking a child, pretending to be another child. Meanwhile, capturing not only your kids' still images, videos, but then geo-tracking your child. Literally a blip on the map to show them exactly not only which town your kid is, but which neighborhood and which part of the house your kid's in. So if your kid gets out of school and on the bus, if they've got this app on or if it's activated, the predator can track your child all the way. Here's his bus route. He's going to get off at this bus stop and I'm going to grab him or her. Or your child could be chatting with another child, and if they're junior high age or more, let's say a boy or a girl befriends your child and says, hey, I'm new at school, I need a friend, I'm shy, will you be my friend? Oh yeah. So let's say your son, he's 13, and some pretty girl says, hi, I'm new at your school, I saw you in the hallway, you're nice, will you be my friend? Well, if he's a gentleman, he'd be like, yeah, I'll help you, I'll help show you around. And what happens if she starts showing him after, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks, private pictures, revealing pictures of herself? Now, keep in mind, it's probably a big, hairy, fat, sweaty man that's got millions of child porn images and videos, but he's just sharing some of those and creating a girl's profile. So your boy's like, oh yeah, hi. And she's like, hey, so-and-so, I'm showing you this of myself because I like you and I want to further my relationship with you. I feel like I can trust you. Like, he's getting psychologically manipulated. And she's like, can I just feel like I can trust you back? Like, will you just show me a little something? So what if he takes a picture of himself, his genitals, and he shares it with this man unwittingly? Then the man says, oh yeah, I got you. Now she sent me video, or I'm going to show your parents, or I'm going to show your school, or I'm going to put it on the internet and show everybody. Your child some of these kids take their own lives because they don't know how to deal with that level of manipulation, of betrayal, and blackmail and trauma. Their minds, they don't have that level of executive function yet, and sophisticated problem solving sophistication. They're just broken, and they're not meant for that. So it's horrific, Chris. It's horrific. So get in your child's phones. There's a list of problem apps on our website. You can research online other ones, and just make sure you know what apps and who your child is talking to, who your child is hanging out with, and teach your children not to be afraid, but aware, just aware. Okay. Well, if you're in public, have your little head on swivel, and don't be like a little rabbit somebody can bop on the head and throw in a creepy rape van without seeing. Like, have your head on a swivel, be aware, have your eyes and aware of your surroundings. So children can look out for themselves if their parents share with them some of these fundamentals of situational awareness is really what it's most about.
That's great. Appreciate that, Craig. I'm assuming you saw this recent piece of news here in Florida.
Yeah.
Where over 1 million videos, including babies. I mean,
no surprise, very ugly, but I'm glad that that's being exposed.
So, I mean, you've been in law enforcement as well. Give me an idea. I mean, how much manpower does it take to even figure out what the 1 million videos are? I mean, that's a big order to ask somebody to describe what's in these 1 million videos.
Yeah, there's AI now. There's some assistance that's being developed that can help, but generally speaking, it's exhaustive. We get cases all the time. Our team, our investigators, are going through just massive volumes of material, trying to assess whether or not there's evidence for actual prosecution in the different cases, and it's exhausting. So, kudos to our law enforcement who are making these cases and bringing prosecutions and meaningful convictions on these predators. But the crime is so large. I'm not worried about firearms and tobacco and alcohol. I'm worried about child trafficking. So I don't care whether or not we have an ATF. And most people I know don't think we should have an ATF. We've got probably hundreds of agencies that we don't need.
Yes.
I would say several dozen can be deleted and nobody would know the difference because they're not doing anything to help the people, but they are taking a lot of tax dollars, right? And they are harassing a lot of people. So there's just my 2 cents on that. I think we got to pick our shots, man, and with what laws we want to enforce. We do need some very, very strictly enforced, and child trafficking is one of them.
Yeah, 100%. So in the same vein of helping to educate myself and our audience, describe the 7 things that you instruct people to be aware of as far as child predators are concerned.
Oh, and we train law enforcement all the time on a lot of these different things.
I notice you've said weak people multiple times, and it's interesting that that's at the very top of your list. And that's
that's why bad things happen. Really, like I said before, everything's a choice. So the predators aren't weak people. They crave empowerment. They want access to unsupervised access to children. So we've got to watch out for that. They want to be scout leaders. They want to be school teachers and coaches and so forth. So look out for that. The predators want to put themselves in unsupervised access. Here's another thing. People talk about stranger danger. What we've been learning is not necessarily strangers. It's uncles. Wow. It's grandpas. It might even be daddy or mommy or brothers and sisters. And we have to just recognize that happens, and it happens a lot. And look, Chris, I talk to grown men all the time, famous rock stars, special operations veterans, hardened, successful warriors who have been great at everything that they've done in life. They'll come to me after we've had dinner or after I've given a speech or something and say, "Hey, Craig, I appreciate your passion and your sincerity. And I've never told anyone this, but I was raped from the time I was this age to this age in my boyhood. And what it's caused me to realize, Chris, is that this happens to boys a lot more than people realize. It happens to girls a lot more than people realize. I would say up to half of girls are probably molested in their childhood, and I would say a third of boys are. And so these men now are confiding in me, and it breaks my heart, man. I want to just go rampage on somebody on their behalf, but I'm not, I can't always do that. But they're telling me, I didn't know this happened to any other boys. I thought it was only me. I thought I was the weird one. I thought it meant that maybe I was a homosexual because I didn't fight back hard enough, and I didn't know there was any help. And so I just ate it. I ate the betrayal. I ate the invasion. I ate the pain and the shame. And I just drove on because I'm a man, and that's what a man does. And I'm like, my God, Father on heaven, help us bring truth and healing to so many people who have been offended and traumatized and betrayed in that way, and help them have healing and because they deserve it. And let us train people not to do that to each other. And so anyway, that's my little rant about that. Is people don't realize it happens to boys as much as it does. And the more I learn about it, the more I just get, it's so disgusting.
Indeed. So Saul Alinsky, one of his rules, just before I go back to the 7 here, is to accuse your foe of doing what you're actually doing. And there has been a rash of arrests that have shown up on my Twitter feed, X feed, of people who are teachers, politicians, news reporters, who have all in the past gone, way over the top as far as saying, we need to capture the predators who are taking advantage of kids, the child sex trafficking, and they're the ones who end up getting busted for it. I don't know if that's a sign or not, but we're talking 7 signs of predators here.
Well,
Just
how many times do people on the left have to be caught and convicted of the exact things that they've been accusing the people on the right of doing before we realize it is a Saul Alinsky tactic? And Hillary Clinton was a student of Saul Alinsky. She really loved his radical rules for radicals. And now it's all coming out that the Clinton Foundation was literally the think tank, the source of the Russian collusion accusation against Trump. And the Clinton Foundation was literally colluding with the Russians. And we know about Uranium One, Hillary Clinton, and selling uranium to the Russians. So why is she not in prison? Because we have a corrupt FBI.
100%.
So as soon as the FBI is not corrupt anymore, I expect she'll get handcuffs slapped on her, and she'll get thrown in Gitmo, and probably Bill and all their other colleagues with them. So the predators like to make it a game. They're master manipulators. They trick the children. Satan is the father of lies, and when he speaks lies, he speaks his native tongue. And a wicked predator is going to manipulate a child to get what he wants, and he's going to make it sound like it's a nice, fun game. And even if it's horrific, he's going to try to put that sugar coating on it. And the child, basically follows the lollipop into the ice cream van. Only it's a guerrilla rape van. When the door slams. So that's what you see there. So people. The children don't really comprehend what's happening. There's such a perversion and distortion and gaslighting of that little child. And there's so much psychological damage, so much trauma deep down with that betrayal of trust, that it's just utterly wicked and demonic. So
6 and 7 are real shocking, to be quite frank. The average child sex predator is religious. And number 7, child predators abuse an average of 70 victims.
Yeah.
That is a big
well, the religious thing is, the wicked want to, again, hide under the banner of that which is righteous. So you got Joe Scumbag, and he's going to pretend to be a Christian. Well, if you look at what Jesus Christ, what Yeshua taught and walked and demonstrated to us, you can find no fault in him. He didn't do this to children. He didn't harm anyone. He spoke truth. He gave love. He healed people, right? So they want to be under that banner so they get the credit. They want that, gold card credit, but they want to abuse it and lie and cheat and steal and destroy everything. So yeah, they want to be under that banner of Christ, but they're the opposite. So I think there's a heavier price coming for them. I pray that there is, because they deserve it, in my opinion. I'm not their judge, but that's just my feeling on it. And then, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, estimates that by their research and all the arrests and the cases that they've studied, that each child predator abuses an average of 70 children in their lifetime, because some get caught the first time and some never get caught. Some that never get caught rape and destroy hundreds of children, because again, they have those positions where a scout leader or wherever, and they can just continue raping children their whole lifetime. And it's hundreds and hundreds, 400 or 500 children. And so the average is 70. So every child predator that we arrest to put in prison represents a list of children who he won't get to. He won't get to harm, and he'll be spared from that. So we rescue as many children as we can in that way to stop the harm, stop the abuse, and spare the children from it.
The numbers are just incomprehensible, to be quite frank, but appreciate the extended explanation there, Craig. So moving on to the next one. So let's say somebody has evidence or, highly probable that child abuse and trafficking is happening. What's your recommendation as far as reporting? How do you get this to the right people who actually care and will do something?
Yeah, well, first go to your local law enforcement. And if they won't respond, go to federal law enforcement. If they won't do anything, you can reach out to orgs like Veterans for Child Rescue, and we will investigate if the evidence is there that we believe can lead to actual conviction in a court of law, which is what we do. So you want to give all of the W's. You see right there the who, what, when, where, and why. They're going to want that. They need to know that, law enforcement I'm talking about, to put together a case. And you have to demonstrate the elements of the crime. So what crime have you observed? You have to be able to articulate that to the law enforcement entity so that they can recognize and understand what you mean, so that they can recognize whether or not they're going to have a case. Because if you present a real case to them, they got to pull men and equipment off of other cases and go after that one to prosecute it. And they've got to make an assessment on whether or not it's legitimate. And I'll say this from working with law enforcement over the decades: you want to do as much of the work as you can for them, because they're busy. They're, in a lot of cases, they're undermanned and overtasked. And if you can do all the research and say, here's everything archived and collated and tabbed and with a bow on the top, and man, this thing's ready for conviction in the court of law right now, boy, they would love that. So the better you can package it up, the more thorough and concisely accurate as you can, the better for the law enforcement entity. So I would say, be aware that that's what they need. So license plates, photos, all the evidence that you can that a crime is being committed or has been committed, and which crime that you're talking about. And you can look up a lot of that online, all the U.S. code and everything, and articulate to them, hey, I've witnessed these crimes, and here's the evidence of these people committing these crimes, and here it is for you in a package.
Super insightful on your part, Craig. And let's face it, most people don't have your breadth of experience, right? So you've got law enforcement experience, military experience, nonprofit experience, for-profit experience. The list goes on. I figured out years ago, Craig, that exactly what you're saying, and Pareto's principle comes into play, the 80-20 rule. If you sit down with a group of people and say, okay, let's get a plan together on whatever this project is, and you have a blank slate, it's hard to get buy-in, and it's hard to get people to, contribute towards that. But if you go to a group of people and you say, hey, I put this together, critique it and help me take it to the next level, they'll jump on it in the blink of an eye. So it's a really interesting, comparison that you drew there, that if you can hand off that type of information that's comprehensive, it's more likely somebody's going to pick the ball up and go running with it, right?
Yes.
And I wanted to make just a quick, comment and adage. But I've been saying for years, Craig, because you've mentioned people making choices, is that the first thing we do in life is we decide what we want, and the second thing we do is decide what we're willing to give up to get it. There's a price for everything that we do.
Everything's a choice. Yep.
So bring us up to speed, our audience in particular. I know last year you had one particular case that there was 71 warrants issued in the blink of an eye on this stuff. You've had some pretty big successes getting some really bad people.
Yeah.
Just to describe for our audience just how
Yeah.
successful Vets for Child Rescue is, because part of the homework tonight is going to be asked people to help your organization. You've got a lot of good stuff going on. So give us the breakdown on the
Well,
success.
thank you. Yeah. Well, to date, we've been able to rescue a number of children in different scenarios and different capacities, and we're grateful for that. But as far as the hands-on work, what we've found is that you're not welcome in the United States to move a child without law enforcement, without a power of attorney from the parents and a warrant from law enforcement. So if you have both of those things, you don't need a third-party NGO like Vets for Child Rescue to extract a child or make a rescue in the continental United States. So we're like, okay, how do we have the biggest bang given that things are the way that they are, the restrictions in this country that almost protect the traffickers?
Yeah.
Well, we can run sting operations with law enforcement. So up to 9 agencies involved in some of our sting operations. We've got 29 arrests so far.
Right.
We've maintained a 100% conviction rate because we're very careful. We start with the DA's office, and I won't go into too much detail for OPSEC, but we make sure that we understand exactly what the elements of the crime are and what the elements of entrapment are in that district, that county. And we operate accordingly in close concert with the DA and the chief prosecutor. So we know exactly what we're doing, and we know exactly whether or not that child predator can be convicted in a court of law before we ever even bring him to our location. So that's what we do. In Nashville, we've got an assistant chief of police that's been a part of multiple joint task forces investigating high-level organized crime, including hundreds of billions of dollars in real estate loan fraud, money laundering through real estate loan fraud across the nation, especially in the Tennessee area, all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And in those joint task forces, he's investigated for 14 years, numerous networks, and learned much. Well, when we ran last year in May a sting operation, we hit like a mother lode. We got 1 arrest and we got 70 warrants on other child predators that were trying to come and get the children, either take the children or come and rape the children. And they were committing the crimes of seriously coming and trying to access those children. So there was a local reporter that we learned was utterly corrupt, and he's in on it, and he's paid to be there to make inconvenient stories go away. So he began panicking and freaking out and attacking the local law enforcement, the PD that we worked with, attacking our org and screaming bloody murder that somehow it was bad that these child predators were these warrants are going to be served and these child rapists were going to be stopped. Right? He had the hard job of spinning that into somehow that being something bad. And then when he couldn't stop the local law enforcement, he went to a state-run agency and had some of his corrupt friends there come in and raid the local PD and raid the assistant chief's home. And they didn't look for evidence pertaining to that, those warrants, those 71 arrests and warrants on that operation. They took everything of all high-level organized crime for 14 years from the PD and from the assistant chief's home. So you can see what they did. They were covering up high-level organized crime, maybe into the trillions of dollars, certainly hundreds of billions over 14 years. So what you have is BRICS nations, China, Russia, North Korea, and others pouring in massive funds to build a stronghold around Nashville. They're using municipal bonds as side deals for corrupt officials that they're installing, not electing. They're literally illegally installing them into political official seats. Corrupt DAs in some cases, judges in some cases, and law enforcement in some cases. They're paying these people with side deals with municipal bonds. And so Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, they came in, a wing of them, urinated in the assistant chief's bathtub, stomped it all around in the house, left copies of the warrants thrown all in the house, just completely unprofessional, botched raid of his house. They took things that they weren't welcome to take. They left things that they should have taken. Unprofessional, very botched, bad raid. They did the same thing to the police department there. So you see that they were sent to cover up in desperation all of the evidence that this assistant chief and these task forces had assembled. So our little sting operation hit a whole hornet's nest of corruption. So the hissing and squealing of that dragon trying to defend itself and stop everybody from hearing about it, it started to quiet down now. And so I just pray that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino purge the FBI of its corruption. And then once it's set, they send them after Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, investigate them, and find out why they covered up all that high-level organized crime investigation.
I want to add something. I want to add something really important for our audience or anybody who watches this video going forward. I have seen with my own eyes a good portion of the evidence that Craig is discussing. I know precisely who he is discussing, and there's a reason that he's being vague. These are active investigations of some really bad people, and some of them are in positions of power. But for anybody who's watching this, when Craig says hundreds of billions of dollars, he's not wrong. Yeah. I've seen the numbers and I can't describe the process because again, it's under investigation, but it is, I don't know what to say. The magnitude is incredible. The magnitude is beyond any level of evil I could have imagined for this and children.
It's disappointing, Chris. It really is. I mean, you like to have faith in our institutions, and before I had heard about TBI, I was like, wow, they're probably great. I gave them, like I said, benefit of the doubt. And friends of mine tried to connect me to them to run sting operations and arrest a bunch of the predators there. They didn't seem like they were into that. And come to find out after our operation, another law enforcement official let me know that they've been tracking a child trafficking ring from New York that had been transferred over to Tennessee. And that's part of what we had tripped across and uncovered in our sting operation. That's why there was such vitriol. We had poked that snake right in the eye, so to speak. So it's interesting what happened there. I do pray that it's all revealed and that all those that are in on it get prosecuted in time. I pray that happens, and I
couldn't agree more. Because let's put a fine point on it here. I'm not exactly a mathematician, but the 29 arrests so far, at the very least, that's probably 2,000 children that will not be raped or trafficked because of the activity of your organization. Then you take these 70 other creeps, you're looking at adding another minimum 5,000 kids, minimum 5,000 young people's lives not being stolen from them. And I wish I could remember who it was. It would either be Doc P, JJ Carroll, or Victor Avila, but one of them said that as soon as a child goes into this child sex trafficking stuff, they have an average lifespan of 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, they either commit suicide or their captors get rid of them because they're basically useless from running, 15 to 20 clients a day, 7 days a week. It's literally incomprehensible for somebody that's not involved in law enforcement interdiction like you are. So Craig, how can our audience, how can people help Vets for Child Rescue? And before you answer that, I do want to just show people, if you go to tools and education on vets4childrescue.org, I'm not kidding you. There is a plethora of information. So Craig, we put out a SITREP every day, and guardians who are paying members, they get a copy of the SITREP. And so the process normally is myself, whoever else is hosting, we put together all of our resources from, what we feel the truth is. We look from far right, far left, everything in between. We follow the money and we put it into the SITREP. So I want our audience to know, I went to Craig and I said, hey, Craig, what URLs, what web pages and stuff do you want me to put up for assets? He said, just go to our website. It's all there. And he was not kidding. This is one place that you can go and be extremely educated on this topic. He's not kidding. Everything is there. So apologies for derailing there for a second. How can our audience help you, Craig? But besides the obvious of donating money, what else can people do?
Yeah, man, spread the word. Watch Contraland if you haven't seen it yet. Contralandmovie.com. It's also linked on v4cr.org there. And share it with everybody that you care about, because knowledge is power. Share it with those that you want to empower so that they and their children can be protected, and everybody that they love. And then get active politically, carry out your civic duty as our founding fathers intended this constitutional republic to run. Our would-be oppressors don't want us to know our power. They want to take that power from us. If we get in there and exercise as our civic duty, we vote and we're active and we expose the corrupt and we drive this nation through our elected officials the way that we're intended, things will go our way. But when we tell ourselves we can't be bothered to vote and we can't be bothered to throw the bums out when they betray us, then nothing's going to work right. So I would say that's a biggie. And if you don't understand the power of prayer, man, I would say do some research, but please pray in addition to everything else you do. I'm a strong believer in everything is ultimately spiritually driven. Like I said before, that we're in a conflict between literally the forces of good and evil, and they are at war, and there's only one side with any real power, and that's the creator. Everyone else are created beings. So all the ones on the fallen side are created beings. They have no power over their creator. So this only goes one way in the end. So
right,
I would say pray to them that it gets wrapped up sooner rather than later, and find out on our website through all the tools how you would most like to contribute, how you would most like to help. That we need artists, we need all kinds of things.
Research.
And there's a lot of ways.
Look how much time it takes to track things down on the internet. If you don't have money and you've got an internet connection, you're not busy.
Yeah,
you
we
can
need
help
a lot of good investigators. Yeah,
Yeah.
we need many investigators that are quality people who are self-starters who will follow through. Man, that's a huge need right now.
Countless rabbit holes that you could, just like Craig said, they went down a rabbit hole in Tennessee. Next thing you know, 71 warrants. I mean, it's it's the magnitude of it's incredible. Well, Craig, listen, I appreciate everything. I appreciate your service to our country, first and foremost. I appreciate all the work you've put into this. You've got your own coffee now?
Oh, man, yeah. Our Rescue Roast, it's epic. Everybody that drinks it loves it. It's right on our website. It's on the shop page. We got a bunch of merch. So if you wear the merch, people will ask questions, and it gives you a chance to talk about it. They're like, oh, what is this? Here's what it is. Let me tell you about it. So you can help fight for the children, because all this, if you buy anything, the only place that goes is into our operational fund to help move men and equipment to arrest pedophiles. That's it. That's what we use it for, and we're grateful.
I think, my wife would have really liked you up until the time that you showed the coffee here, because she's always complaining of my addiction to coffee. So now I have to try this one too. But
you will not be disappointed.
That's awesome. I can't thank you enough, Craig, for everything that you do, everything that you continue to do. Wish you the best luck. We pray for your safety and everybody in your circles. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, I appreciate your coverage, Chris, because, not just everybody's willing to cover this because it's so censored and shadow banned, and it's a painful topic. But the good news is, like you and I talked before, is that we can do something about it. We, the people, are empowered. Yes. And if we choose, we can start revolting against the people that are ruining everything and make it better. How good does that feel to be part of the solution to make our nation a safer place for children again, where in years past and right now it's predatory for the little ones. So I celebrate that opportunity.
Yeah,
And I appreciate you highlighting it, brother. I really do.
Well, I don't want to take us down a super deep rabbit hole, but the fact of the matter is we've been given this one more chance to save our Christian culture and our country. And we have to take advantage of that. We've got to keep the hammer down. There's no rest just because we got Donald Trump back in office. We've got a lot of work to do. And people like you, Craig, set just an amazing example. Can't thank you enough. Look forward to having you on the next time. And for our audience, I've got a short message from CCW Safe, and then I'll be back for chapters 2 and 3. Craig, thank you once again.
Thank you. God bless.
Likewise. Necessity truly is the mother of all invention. And there's so many successes like yours where the product didn't exist, the company didn't exist, and you had to invent it yourself to fill that void.
What we provided, even at the time when we started CCW Safe, it was really better than what most officers were getting through their unions or departments. And you mentioned earlier about competitors. I fully believe that whatever, all of our competitors are going to do exactly what they say they're going to do. It's just we do it a little different. We're not an insurance company or a critical response team. We're really the only one in the industry that has a dedicated critical response team like we have. And, that first 48 hours is so important to lock down. So we just do things differently.
All right. So as you all know, I'm a big fan of CCW Safe. I spent 18 months evaluating all the options. I had been with one of the other companies for years, and I got a burr up my ass to go dig a little bit deeper. And essentially, the only thing I want to add to what he said is that it is against the law to be paid insurance benefits if you were in the process of breaking the law. So 95% of criminal charges are pled out before going to court, even if you're not guilty. Most of the time, your attorney is going to say, look, just take the diminished plea. Don't risk going to jail for decades on end. The second that you do that, if you have insurance for self-defense, you owe every penny back, and then you will have nobody to defend you under the civil side, which will follow shortly after the criminal side. Not to mention the fact that if a civil judgment is given against you, that'll come out of your own pocket, whereas CCW Safe, number one, doesn't sell you insurance. They sell you membership benefits. And number two, if you have their top-of-the-line package, you get $1 million coverage against a civil judgment, and you can purchase even more than that. And here's the cool thing with CCW Safe, $47 a month for the top-end package, but your spouse automatically gets covered. So it's $23.50 a piece. That's a heck of a deal for the level of coverage you get. You can go to, there's a link down below, ccwsafe.com/survival dispatch. And we do not get paid affiliate money by CCW Safe. They send us a small amount of money each month to defray some of our expenses. We really, really, really appreciate it when you support our sponsors. So chapter 2, we're going to pick up the pace a little bit here because I see we're running long. But if we're going to run long for anything, Craig Sawyer and his mission is a good cause to run long for. So he actually brought this topic up towards the end of our discussion there. And this is the Crossfire Hurricane files. So they've been dropped now. So meaning that under Freedom of Information Act, it's out there now. So in the heat of the 2016 presidential election, whispers of scandal quickly escalated into headlines as claims surfaced alleging a shadowy alliance between Donald Trump's campaign and Vladimir Putin's Russia. Front page stories breathlessly reported on supposed secret meetings, clandestine travel to Prague by Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, and a lucrative Kremlin-backed oil deal allegedly brokered by Trump advisor Carter Page. Night after night, cable news pundits speculated about Trump aides coordinating directly with Russian hackers to sabotage Hillary Clinton's campaign, amplifying a narrative of conspiracy and treachery that engulfed Washington for years. Yet, beneath this wave of sensational allegations lay internal FBI documents now brought to light that paint a starkly different picture. Confidential FBI reports reveal investigators privately admitted early on that key aspects of the infamous Steele dossier were unsupported or even likely Russian disinformation. The supposed clandestine Cohen-Prague rendezvous was swiftly flagged as false by U.S. intelligence. The purported Carter-Page Kremlin oil for sanctions negotiation was dismissed internally as hearsay, and behind closed doors, FBI agents acknowledged they found no direct contacts between Trump campaign officials and Russian intelligence operative. These buried findings, long hidden from public view, expose a striking gap between the explosive accusations splashed across media headlines and the quiet truth that was recorded in FBI investigative files. And we have been saying on Survival Dispatch News for years that it was all paid for by Hillary Clinton. It was essentially a made-up story. And here we are all these years later, the evidence comes out, but I guarantee you will still have politicians, whether they be rhinos or Democrats. You will have media outlets and reporters. And of course, you'll have the sheeple who drink too much Kool-Aid that will continue on with the Russia crap. How much you want to bet Adam Schiff is quoted sometime in the very near future on Russia again, even though it's been debunked over and over and over again. I suppose on the bright side, at least the truth is finally coming out. All right, breaking. U.S. Space Force Colonel Susan Myers removed from her post after sending an email to staff criticizing J.D. Vance's visit to Greenland. The email read, "The concerns of the U.S. administration discussed by Vice President Vance on Friday are not reflective of Patuxent Space Base." And this is her right here. And she is done. And this will not be the last time that these, oh my goodness, I don't know what you want to call them. I'm trying to come up with a word with these people that are embedded, not just in our military, but our bureaucracy, that are on some sort of crusade to stomp out anything that's truthful and effective, like J.D. Vance's words and, of course, the Trump administration. All right, moving on to the next one from Owen Gregorian. Iran shows off underground missile city stuffed with advanced weapons. And I put this in the SITREP today because of the episode that we did last night with regards to nuclear stocks across the Western hemisphere that will likely fall into Muslim hands if we do not save and liberate Great Britain and France. But let's talk Iran a little bit more context tonight. So the Iranian government spends a great deal of time whining about how U.S. sanctions against its illegal nuclear program are crushing its economy and causing civilians to suffer, but the regime still has plenty of money to spend on weapons. On Tuesday, the Iranian military posted a video showing off a massive underground missile city packed full of expensive weapons. Iran has a history of releasing boastful missile city videos when it feels threatened. Tuesday's video was actually the third such propaganda release in less than a month. In January, shortly before President Donald Trump's second inauguration, Iranian state television broadcast footage of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Commander General Hossein Salami. I was waiting for that other guy. He had a few more syllables in his name. The one Trump killed the first time around, they lost their shit over it. Anyway, visiting an underground missile city hidden somewhere in the mountains. This missile base was ostensibly involved in Iran's ineffective missile attack against Israel. In 2016, when the Obama administration was dithering over reimposing sanctions against Iran for blatantly violating President Barack Obama's nuclear deal, the Iranians published footage of an underground missile city stocked with potentially nuclear-capable ballistic missiles that clearly violated UN Security Council resolutions. Obama backed down from imposing sanctions despite Tehran's taunts. The Jerusalem Post said the missile city in Tuesday's video appeared to contain at least 5 different types of long-range missile, including the EMAD missile, the same class of UN-defying weapon showcased in the 2016 video. In the video, Iranian Armed Forces Chief of Staff Major General Mohammad Bagheri drove through his vast inventory of missiles in a Jeep, made a point of walking across an Israeli flag, and claimed Iran's iron fist is far stronger than before. all the dimensions that required for generating a capability that is 10 times stronger than the one deployed during Operation True Promise 2 has been created, Bagherry boasted. The enemy will definitely fall behind in this balance of power. Operation True Promise 2 was Iran's April missile attack on Israel. It was a humiliating disaster for Iran by any objective measure, but Iranian regime propaganda portrays the attack as a rousing success that terrified the Israeli and American military establishments. Iranian state media said it was a time to introduce the latest underground missile city to the world and demonstrate Iran's military preparedness to defend the homeland due to escalating threats and blatant warmongering from the Donald Trump administration and the Israeli regime. Iran's state-run Press TV claimed on Wednesday the newly unveiled IRGC facility is the largest yet, both in scale and firepower. In a single frame, at least 78 Kabar Shakan or Hajj Qasim missiles were visible, with additional footage showing tunnels filled with dozens more, suggesting the base houses at least hundreds, if not thousands, of missiles, Press TV gushed. The report quoted Azija claiming that Iran could reveal one of its missile cities each week for the next 2 years and still would not have revealed them all. So I'm going to rewind this to the beginning. It's 2 minutes and 9 seconds long. I won't play the whole thing. I will certainly play enough, though, for you to get the gist of how big this is. And there's no real sound to this. Music, but no narrative, I should say. The underground missile base appears to show thousands of short to long-range ballistic missiles as well as anti-ship cruise missiles. The video released by the semi-official Tasnim news agency shows Iranian officials visiting the site in the back of a military off-road vehicle. Iran has released several similar videos in recent months, seemingly in response to U.S. and Israeli threats against its nuclear sites. It comes as Donald Trump has reportedly sent a letter urging Tehran to negotiate a new nuclear deal to avoid military action.
We're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. Can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I think that I would have had a deal within 1 month after the rigged election of 2020. They were all set to make a deal.
All right, and I'll stop it there. That should give you the gist of it. So moving on from there, Stephen Miller exposes China, says their economy is a house of cards built on cheating. And here at Survival Dispatch News, we've been saying for the past 2 years that China's economy is on very shaky ground. 60% of their plants are closed, not 40%, which is what they're telling their citizens. Most of their citizens who are unemployed have now moved back to the country to farm. It's the only way they can put food on the table. China was a nation of farmers before we gave them all of our manufacturing and intellectual property that goes with it, plus what they stole. In addition to that, you have massive turnkey cities that are mothballed. Nobody lives there except for the caretakers. You have the lowest point that their currency's been at versus our dollar in years. With these new tariffs, by the way, which could go as high as 400%, we're at 145% now, will completely flatten their economy. We've got 75 other countries who want to work with us to pick up the slack. In other words, provide us with goods that they make instead of us buying them from China. China gets a big tariff from us, 145%. We're charging a 10% tariff for these other 75 countries and vice versa over the next 90 days while we negotiate agreements with them, which will, in all likelihood, eliminate tariffs going in both directions. There's also a commitment that Trump is asking, his administration is asking of these other countries, that if you want to be on board with being part of Team America, the largest, most sophisticated economy in the world by an order of magnitude, then you got to partner with us and not with China. I'm telling you right now, their economy will collapse no later than the end of this year, and it's going to be disastrous for them. Now, the Chinese people, I've met a lot of really good, decent Chinese people over the years, but their government, much like our government, has been very corrupt for very many years. So we shall see how it plays out, but don't be afraid of not being able to get garbage from China at all. We can all go without some of the disposable crap that many of their companies make, not all of them, many of them. And we'll come out on this side bigger, badder, stronger than ever. All right, Stephen Miller just put Beijing on notice. In the middle of a high-stakes tariff war, he's exposing what few dare to say out loud. China's economy is far weaker than it looks, and it's only standing because America lets it. They were supposed to hit 19 trillion for their GDP this year. They'll be lucky to hit 17 trillion, which is at least 14 trillion less than our economy, and then at 4.5 trillion for Germany, and then 2.5 trillion for a handful of countries, after that. But if you took $1 trillion seconds and convert $1 trillion, convert it to $1 trillion seconds, it's 31,667 years. So 14 trillion times 31,667. That should give you some idea. I think it works out to somewhere, 150,000, 155,000 years difference. When you convert it to time versus dollars, it's a big deal. All right. Do not underestimate the fragility of China's economic system, because again, it is built on the exploitation of our global trading system. So it relies on America and its allies, allowing China to dump, devalue, and cheat. And once America and other countries begin to stand up to that and deter these practices, it will reveal the enormous fragility of China's economic system. Miller's messaging to Beijing was crystal clear: back down or face a reckoning. I'm telling you, the reckoning is coming. So China will be very well advised to choose the path of reconciliation and to accept America's insistence that it discontinue these illegal, abusive trading practices that have caused our country such incalculable harm. This isn't diplomacy, it's economic warfare. And for the first time in decades, China may be the one on defense. Well, the word may does not belong in there. China is absolutely trying to defend themselves. Now, they cannot withstand this. We can live without China. They can't live without us. All right, from Libs of TikTok, alarming new report from the Network Contagion Research Institute shows the left are increasingly normalizing violence. 55.2% say it's justified to kill Trump. 48.6% say it's justified to kill Elon. 57.6% say it's acceptable to destroy Tesla dealerships. Democrat leadership incited this, and shame on them. This is absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to repeat the numbers in the graph below. If you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, or if you go to survivaldispatch.news and sign up to become a guardian, formerly referred to as an insider, you get all of our daily SITREPs, has all the links to everything that you see on here. In addition to that, you get an invite to our Signal chat, private Signal chat, where there's an immense amount of intelligence shared by members of Team SD, plus guardians who participate. And you get an invite to Saturday morning aftermath webinars, 11 a.m. Eastern, every Saturday. It's private. It's just for guardians. You have to register. If you haven't registered for tomorrow's session, we're working on how to prepare your home defense plan. Go to the Signal chat, check it out, or go to Patreon, check it out there. You can also go to Substack. If you're a paying member, get the link, register. Tomorrow's session is going to be very productive for everybody involved. All right, moving along to the next one. Trump administration considering drone strikes in Mexico reports. Drone strikes on Mexican cartels are being considered as the Trump administration weighs its next steps to fight criminal gangs operating with impunity across the southern border. Military and intelligence officials are examining options that include acting without Mexico's official consent, according to NBC. The report noted that although the U.S. and Mexico have conducted joint operations, the scale envisioned by the Trump administration would dwarf past projects. In February, the Trump administration increased CIA drone surveillance of fentanyl production sites in Mexico, according to the New York Times. This week, CNN reported that the administration is investigating how far the CIA can go to use lethal force against the cartels. This is coming. This has been on our radar for a long time. We know multiple people that are either directly or indirectly involved in this. And when we can share those details, we absolutely will. We always do. For those of you who follow us, though, we'd like to assume that you trust us. And when we tell you that this is coming, which we told you all this was coming 6 months ago, by the way, we will back it up with facts when we essentially can do so in the clear. All right, moving on to the next one. This professor should be launched into the sun. Professor says if you read to your kids, you're unfairly disadvantaging others. Bedtime story privilege. According to a professor at the University of Warwick in England, parents who read to their kids should be thinking about how they're unfairly disadvantaging other people's children by doing so. Okay, so we're not in chapter 3, so I will refrain from cussing. But boy, howdy, these people are insane. They're absolutely insane. And if anything, if you want to chastise somebody, Professor, how about you chastise the parents who don't actively support their children, don't read to their children, do those types of activities? Maybe that's the right place for you to expend your energy. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. All right, next one up. Tren de Aragua is not just a gang, it's a government-backed foreign threat. Patrick Byrne lays out how Tren de Aragua, now designated a foreign terrorist organization by President Trump, operates as a paramilitary extension of the Venezuelan regime. These aren't just criminals. They're foreign soldiers trained by military intelligence, backed by Cartel de Sol, and deployed into U.S. cities through networks involving the Sinaloa cartel and regional allies. We're already in World War III. We just don't recognize it yet. Byrne breaks down the legal authority behind Trump's action under the Alien Enemies Act, calling the infiltration a direct threat to national security and sovereignty. Full report on Lindell TV. This is a 7-minute and 53-second video, so I'm not going to play it. Again, go grab today's SITREP. The links to everything that we show you are in there, and then you can watch this video at your leisure. But Patrick Byrne, keep in mind, we've had him on Survival Dispatch News. He was a Senate Intelligence Committee asset for many years, in addition to being the CEO of Overstock.com. Some people think that he's heavy on conspiracy theories. I've spoke to him extensively, and I'm telling you straight up, he's an honest dude. Right side of your brain is the creative side. Left side of your brain is the data bank. When somebody's talking to you and they're trying to recall a story or tell you something and they keep looking up and to the right, they're probably telling you a fib because they're accessing the creative make-believe side of the brain. If they're not moving their eyes or they look up to the left, they're probably retrieving information from the data bank. Watch Patrick Byrne speak. You don't see him looking up and to the right. And maybe that's not 100% deal, but it's darn close. I've used it in interviews for years, interviewing, executives to hire, and it's served me well. All right, moving on to the next one here. Oh boy. Appointing a woman, namely Amy Coney Barrett, was a huge mistake. Not only did she just side with the liberal judges on the deportation case, but listen to her talk about George Floyd, a violent thug who assaulted a pregnant woman and died of fentanyl poisoning while resisting arrest. It's only 37 seconds long, so I'm going to play it.
Given that I have 2 Black children, that was very, very personal for my family. Jesse was with the boys on a camping trip out in South Dakota, so I was there, and my 17-year-old daughter, Vivian, who's adopted from Haiti, all of this was erupting. It was very difficult for her. We wept together in my room, and then it was also difficult for my daughter, Juliet, who's 10. I had to try to explain some of this to them. I mean, my children, to this point in their lives, have had the benefit of growing up in a cocoon where they have not yet experienced hatred or violence. And for Vivian, to understand that there would be a risk to her brother or the son she might have one day of that kind of brutality has been an ongoing conversation. It's a difficult one for us, like it is for Americans all over the country.
Sorry, that was a 58-second video. And I don't know about y'all, but her voice is like fingernails on a chalkboard. I don't know how her husband does it. I couldn't do it. I'll tell you that much. Sorry if that sounds ignorant, but it's true. All right, we are taking the Panama Canal back. Pete Hegseth. China did not build this canal. China does not operate this canal. And China will not weaponize this canal. 30-second video. This is the way that we deal with bullies like China, who, by the way, are accusing us of being the bullies. They're the ones who've been bullies, taking advantage of us and everybody else. Hats off to Pete Hegseth here. Hats off to Pete Hegseth, taking back stuff that we lost. I want to say thousands of lives were lost building the Panama Canal. I don't recall exactly what the number is, but that is it for chapter 2. We're getting ready to roll into chapter 3, some zany, funny stuff. But before then, got a quick message from our friends at Performance Triggers. I will be right back. All right, so performancetriggers.com, use discount code SD10, 10% off plus free shipping on all of their triggers. Good guys with great products, and we appreciate their support here on Survival Dispatch. All right, first one up in chapter 3. Vienna, Austria. Migrants blow up a drink vending machine with a bomb to steal from it. 31 seconds. Wow. Cultural enrichment right there for you. All right. Lower cost diesel, lower cost gasoline, lower cost home heating, lower cost electricity. All of these things are good for American consumers and good for businesses. That's President Trump's energy agenda, and I'm here to implement it. 27 seconds.
We have a wonderful free market economy. That's what makes the world wealthier. That's what allows consumers to continually re-express choices in every direction. So no, there's no formula for a good oil price. There's just a broader belief that lower cost diesel, lower cost gasoline, lower cost home heating, lower cost electricity, all of those are good for American consumers and good for businesses. That's President Trump's energy agenda, and I'm here to implement it.
Good policy. And as we've mentioned numerous times, you know, we were energy independent under Trump, and then the Biden admin got installed through stealing the 2020 election, shut down Keystone XL, refused to renew leases to drill for oil on federal property. Trump is turning all that around. We've got oil at the lowest point that it's been since he was in office prior. Same thing goes with fuel. When you drop the price of fuel, every single commodity item goes down in price because everything has to be shipped, whether it's a boat bringing it from across the pond, whether it's planes distributing it, semis distributing it, trains distributing it. Gas is a major factor. So look for prices on stuff that's not imported from China to continue to go down. All right, next one up here. So a bird just landed on Peter Doocy's head on live television outside the White House. President Trump, if you're watching upstairs, we got to do something about these birds. Handled it like a pro. I like Benny Johnson for the most part. I definitely like Peter Doocy, but I don't know that he handled this like a pro, to be quite honest. So let's see the video. Maybe this will be the first audience poll for tonight. If you think he handled this like a pro, let's see a 1 in the live chats. If you think he didn't handle it like a pro, let's see a 2 in the live chat. 32 seconds.
America.
Right.
So,
Yeah, Peter, I appreciate it.
Peter.
A
Oh,
bird just landed on my head. What is going on? Was that a bird? What was that about? I did not like that at all. Peter, the back of your head, your hair's standing up now.
I mean, you got good hair, though.
What is going on?
That's probably so dirty.
Had to be scary.
It's probably so dirty.
Right.
Did he say dirty?
Yeah.
Scary.
I know.
Hey, President Trump, if you're watching upstairs, we got to do something about these birds.
I don't think he handled that like a pro. So again, if you think he handled it like a pro, put a 1 in the live chat. If you think he didn't handle it like a pro, put a 2 in the live chat, regardless of what platform you're on. When he said, oh, it's probably dirty, that was it for me. Yeah, that's not handling like a pro. All right, here we go. The woke live in a world with no connection to reality. Put them into a safe space for themselves and the rest of us. This is where the woke lived before the 1970s. Mental institution. Imagine that. How many times have we said that on Survival Dispatch News? All right, and next one up. This is pretty funny. What's the difference between a politician and a flying pig? The letter F. Get your head wrapped around that. What's the difference between a politician and a flying pig? Answer is an F, because they are lying pigs. Well said. All right, we're into chapter 3. So it's always a safe bet that there will be some profanity of some sort in chapter 3. And here it is. America regained. Fuck your jihad, fuck your leftism, fuck your globalism, fuck your open borders, and fuck your Antifa BLM. That's just about enough of this bullshit. I second the motion. All right, and here we go. So, this girl who metaphorically represents Muslims hates Jews, Christians, atheists, gays, dogs, bacon, wine, beer, your civilization, your culture, your traditions, your country, and you, but complains about Islamophobia. So my message to these people, and I've had this opinion since the 1980s, is if the country that you came from is so good and it's so bad here, go the fuck back. Simple. It's not hard. Because we're not changing our country to match where you came from. And this next video is actually a really good example of that. Afghan Muslim asylum seeker dances for Germans in Hamburg. 1 minute, 11 seconds. Not a hope in hell that I'm going to play this whole video. And that's enough of that. So anybody who thinks it is gay as fuck for a male to dress like this and dance like this, put a 1 in the live chat. If you think it's perfectly normal, put a 2 in the live chat. I'm going to pray that y'all answer this one correctly. So if you think this is gay as fuck, put a 1 in the live chat. If you think this is perfectly normal and acceptable, put a 2 in the live chat. We're not seeing a lot of votes over here on Rumble tonight, by the way. Or wait a minute. Actually, I lie. I got to go back to it over here. You guys have had some crazy volume of messages on Rumble tonight. Wow. All right, moving on. Make this woman famous. Arrests have to start being made. Repost and repost. This is the reason that I say you can't be a liberal and a Christian. They're the most evil, vile group of people. Liberation Day will be the day that Trump dies with a shirt that says, "Is he dead yet?" These are mentally ill, possessed people that these are a direct result of our enemies engaging in divide and conquer America, right? So they make us diametrically opposed, huge chasm in between, to the point where there will be no reconciliation with these nutcases. And what does it do? It consumes our bandwidth, our energy, our money. It puts us at odds with other people. We have this epidemic of mental illness that people like this are now suffering. She fits the bill, by the way. You've got 72% of Caucasian women in that 20 to 40, 45-year-old range admit to taking SSRIs, which means the number's probably 82%. I cannot imagine being a younger Caucasian guy these days looking for a normal girl who is also Caucasian. You have to look elsewhere, because young white women that are sane are few and far between these days. All right, next one up. This is comical here. All right, never let them know your next move. 12 seconds. This is freaking funny. It's a good thing she went under that instead of stepping over that. Not sure exactly what the thought process was there, but who am I to judge? All right, next one up. I still want a donkey. So my brother-in-law in Waxahachie, Texas, had a donkey. His name was Fred. Fred was an asshole. And we'd be standing outside, doing a cookout, whatever, and Fred would sneak up behind you and bite you in the ass, bite you in the elbow. He was a serious, serious asshole. I actually think the only person that Fred never bit is my wife, Cindy. She thought he was just fine. I couldn't stand that. That donkey actually went after two of my dogs, Billy and Bob, a couple Gotti pits that we had. We just lost Billy last year. Bob died years ago from cancer. Fred went after my dogs, and I pulled my pistol, and suffice it to say, everybody there was like, don't shoot Tahana's donkey. Don't shoot Tahana's donkey. Tahana's my sister-in-law. Anyway, check this out. I still want a donkey. 1 minute, 5 seconds. It's worth it. It's funny.
Waffles. Waffles. I know. You have new friends, but they don't want to play with you like that. They don't want to play tag. Good morning, Henry.
Put the goat down. Drop the goat. Oh my gosh.
Monty! Hey, Lillian! Good morning, Henry.
Bomba.
Make chickens! Just like him. Fuck.
Cause I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me. My problems have all gone.
That was a pretty good impersonation of Eddie Murphy's voice. All right, next one up. Starts off with this girl saying, "My husband in pictures with me," and then the rest is self-explanatory. 25 seconds. All right. So next audience poll. If that's you in both instances with your wife, put a 1 in the comments. Or if your husband is like this, put a 1 in the comments. And if your husband is nothing like this video, or you're nothing like the guy in this video, put a 2. So 1, this is the way it is in your home. 2, this is not the way it is in your home. Actually, be very interested to see Kevin right away. He's got a bunch of 1s. Oh my God. You guys kill me. All right. Pro tip. Did you know that men will arrive in heaven 30 minutes before women? this is true. This is right from the Bible. 29-second video.
Hey, babe. What? Did you know that men are going to arrive in heaven about 30 minutes before women?
Michael, where did you hear that?
It's right here. Revelations chapter 8, verse 1. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour.
No, Michael.
This is the word of God, babe.
No!
Oh my God, that was funny. Oh, that's too freaking funny. Velcro ain't saying nothing. That's funny too. All right, next one up. So this is Abdul. He can't sleep. He's, thinking light bulbs. Next thing you know, his dreams turn to sheep. He's counting sheep, of course, and y'all can see the effect that that has on him. No need for me to describe this. Very self-explanatory. All right. Donald Trump, my next piece is called They Fucked Up. Yeah. Did they ever? Now they're fixing to find out, though. Oh, my God. I think somebody may have sent this one from the Signal chat. Probably Velcro. Look at these retarded dogs. This is freaking hilarious. 1 minute long. That is too freaking funny, Velcro. I laughed just as hard the first time as well. All right. So, chapter 3, we always have to have some really fucked up person doing some really fucked up thing. And here it is for tonight. I have no idea how you even describe this, why anybody would do this. 22 seconds. May not be able to make it through the whole 22 seconds. Yeah, that's enough of that. Golly. Make asylums great again. Please, somebody make asylums great again. All right. Velcro, I hope you weren't saying that was you 20 minutes ago or this last one. That better have been 2 before the last one. All right. This is the wildest video I've ever seen. It's pretty good. Minute. Hats off to her. Got to give her credit. That was pretty awesome. All right, next one up. Look at me. I don't believe in conspiracy theories because government loves me. Homer, it's a great impersonation of the sheeple. Well done. All right. And from Retard Finder, we got Tim Walls here. He gets more retarded by the day. Hard to believe, but true thing. Fact. All right. Next one up. Golly. From Clown World, unhinged, off the rails, beyond parody. These people are completely broken beyond repair. 11 seconds.
She really stand on business. She said, fuck Trump. She really stand.
Wow. Again, make asylums great again. Please make asylums great again. All right, last one, though, is total opposite end of the spectrum. Funny as all get out. This guy standing up pretends to be the husband of the girl who's sitting in the pink. She has no idea who he is. And, of course, she's with this other guy, denying that she knows who the guy is who's standing. So the headline on this is pretending a random woman is cheating. His cheating wife is diabolical. Minute 21 seconds. We've got to play the whole thing.
Get up! What are you doing with him?
What are you talking about? I don't know you.
So, okay, just let me tell you, we have 3 kids. We're married.
Who the are you? And I don't know what the you want, but you need to go away.
We weren't doing nothing.
I just seen you guys laying on each other.
Really?
What do you mean, really?
Like?
Yeah, hold on. You're shaking like a dog. Tighten up.
I know.
Josh, Jeremiah, and Kaylee.
Who are they?
Her own kids. She's literally disregarding her own kids right now.
I had no clue this was your wife.
Do I know you?
It's crazy how, like, women act, right, bro?
I know. I don't like that.
Look, I don't even know who you are, but you need to please leave, because I'm in the middle of talking to someone, and I don't think it's really...
You weren't in the middle of talking to nobody. You told me, hold on, you told me this was your therapist. You didn't tell me that this was your pink, you didn't tell me it was your pink meat rider.
I don't know who he is.
Really?
I don't.
You didn't say nothing about the kids or anything about a marriage or nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that right?
I don't know who this is. I don't know what he's talking about.
Is it right?
You guys stay right there. You sit down, okay? You sit down. And I'll be right back.
Where are you going?
I'll be right back. They left, bro.
Diabolical indeed. Oh my goodness, that is just too freaking funny. All right, so that is it for chapter 3 tonight. Got a few things to wrap up here with, the first one being homework. So what can you do in light of the main topic of the night, child sex trafficking? Number 1, donate to Vets for Child Rescue. So Vets, VETS, 4, number 4, childrescue.org. Click on the donate button. Study the Vets for Child Rescue website, especially on how to get involved. It is literally a one-stop shopping place for all things related to child sex trafficking. Incredible what a resource Craig's put together there. Number 3, share their website on all of your socials. Help get the word out, like Craig mentioned. Number 4, raise your situational awareness when in public and be on the lookout for potential child abduction trafficking. And that's it for the homework. A quick reminder, patreon.com/survivaldispatch or survivaldispatch.news. You can sign up to be a guardian. And if you sign up as a guardian, formerly known as an insider, you get our daily SITREP situation report, which has all of the links and additional commentary on everything that we show you on the podcast each night. If you don't have time to hang out with us for the entire podcast, I get it, understand that. But when you sign up and you get our daily SITREP, you can pick and choose what you want to digest, when you want to digest it. And it has, again, a plethora of information in there. You also get an invite to our Signal chat, which is private, extremely busy. I've seen days where there have been 2,500 to 3,000 messages in there. A bunch of guys from Survival Dispatch are in there sharing information. A bunch of regulars are in there sharing information on a regular basis. There's a ton of camaraderie. It's turned out to be a pretty awesome resource. And number 3, you also get an invite to Aftermath sessions at 11 a.m. Eastern every Saturday. It's a private webinar for Guardians where we tackle a topic that the Guardians have voted on. So tomorrow, for example, we will be stepping people through preparing your home defense plan. And we've got the next 8 weeks mapped out. So at the end of tomorrow's webinar, we will pick another one to tack on to the end because we're covering the home defense planning for the first one tomorrow. Pretty awesome resource. All right, here we are right at the end with our conflicted question of the day. So we have a hypothetical scenario of a food shortage ruse. This one's a little bit different. It's October 2025, and a severe drought has slashed crop yields, spiking food prices nationwide in a small town. James, a widower, and his 15-year-old daughter, Lily, have been rationing their pantry to get by. They've got a modest stockpile, 3 months of canned goods and dry staples, thanks to James' cautious nature. One afternoon, a neighbor, Tom, knocks on their door looking gaunt and desperate. He claims his family hasn't eaten in days and begs James for food. James knows Tom's been reckless, selling off supplies for cash earlier in the year, but Lily insists they help, citing their church's teachings. As James hesitates, Tom grows agitated, hinting he'll tell others about their stockpile if they don't share. Later that night, James spots Tom watching their home with 2 unfamiliar men, raising fears of a planned theft. So here's the question. When a neighbor pressures you to share scarce resources during a food crisis, possibly with ulterior motives, how would you weigh the Christian duty to give to the one who asks, Matthew 5:42, against the responsibility to steward your provisions wisely for your family's survival? What preparations, whether stockpiling, community alliances, or spiritual discernment, could you make to handle such a situation, with compassion and prudence? All right, so here's my take at this. We subscribe to the idea of having charity bags that have food, water, consumable stuff for people that is not part of our stockpile. So there's a couple things immediately come to mind here. Number one, unless you have a mutual assistance group or family members that are trustworthy, don't tell people about your preps. Don't tell them what you've got prepped, how much you've got prepped, where you've got it prepped. Keep it to yourself, number one. Number two, don't put all your preps in one spot. So maybe you hide some in the attic. Maybe you got a cellar, put something in your garage in nondescript boxes or totes. If you got a shed, you may even consider burying some stuff in a cache. But don't put it all in one spot so that if somebody does take it by force or otherwise, you didn't lose everything in one shot. Number two, have some sort of charity stuff set aside. Think of a pillowcase, full of food and other consumables that you can say to this guy, hey, I've got a bag prepared for you. Here you go. And beyond that, this fear that's raised in this one of Tom with 2 other unfamiliar men watching the house, I think we've kind of covered this ad nauseum on Survival Dispatch. If you live in a state with strong castle doctrine, strong stand your ground, you have to be prepared in this type of situation to put yourself and your family first. If you don't look after yourself, you can't look after your family. And if you have to protect yourself and your family from this sort of scenario, well, we all know where that goes. Now, be aware of one thing, though. Regardless of what the circumstances are, could be total full-on SHTF scenario, could be something in between, but there will always be a reckoning for your actions. So I'm certainly not counseling you to use deadly force. If at all, it can be avoided. But if you're in a state with a strong castle doctrine, strong stand your ground laws, I'm not an attorney. You should consult with your attorney. You need to be mentally and physically prepared to defend what is yours. And that means getting professional training. As a matter of fact, if you want training, sign up to be a guardian tonight if you're not already a guardian. And then send an email to support@survivaldispatch.com with your cell phone number after you have installed Signal and you haven't hidden your number. We'll get you an invite there. And either on the Signal chat or Patreon or Substack, you'll see the link to get registered for tomorrow, because this is the precise topic that we're going through tomorrow. So would love to see y'all's answers in the live chat or the comment section down below or over in the Signal chat. You can also post comments on Substack and Patreon as well. We've got a short video, shorter than usual, that's on TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, to wrap up for tonight. Jeff O'Donnell will be with y'all tomorrow night. John Wheaton will be with y'all on Sunday night. I will be back on Monday, and Monday is when we're going to cover this ongoing persecution of Christians around the world and how we continue to decrease in size in most areas, but not all. There's actually a study just released that says Christianity is starting to rebound in America, finally going the right way. All right. Other than, everything we've covered already, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy the video. God bless America.
An